And we welcome you to another edition of the ManjaCast. Bob Papa, Chris Bizignano. So glad you can join us. We're going to break down the quarterbacks. Again, subscribe on YouTube. Leave comments. We're going to take your questions this evening. Whatever you want. We're going to talk quarterbacks with a guy who knows quarterbacks, the great Charlie Weis. Chin chin, my friend.
How you doing, my friend?
What are we drinking tonight?
Good.
Same bottle from last week?
No, I went with your Bore. What's that called? The one you were drinking last week.
Dow?
Dow, yeah, Dow. Yes,
Dow.
This is Dow.
All right, tonight I have a Mayomi.
Is that a Cabernet there? Yeah.
It's a Cabernet. It's a Cabernet. Not too pricey.
Give it a little background of that. California? What is that?
Yeah, California Cab. I got to start getting into the Italians. I got to go shopping for the Italians. I mean, that's the key because the local place doesn't really carry any of the good Italian stuff. So
you can find it online. You get the good Italians.
Well, we try.
What's going on, brother?
What's going on? I'm anxious to talk about the quarterback situation. Aren't you?
Tap. How if you tap a football, it disqualifies you as an NFL quarterback? Stuff like that.
The most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
I mean, Bob, as we get closer to the draft, and we are now 2 weeks away, tomorrow, we're in full-blown idiotic mode everywhere. I mean, this is the time of year where you just read and hear about the most idiotic crap imaginable. And with Shedeur Sanders tapping the football, that might have been up there as one of them.
Oh, you think you think that's a little crazy?
Oh, I think we might have seen a few quarterbacks in the NFL do that over the years. What do you think?
Yeah, like a couple of thousand of them.
Yeah, and it was a pretty good one. Charlie Weis coached 6th-round pick out of Michigan. If I remember right, he tapped that ball a lot.
Didn't Dan Marino tap it?
Big Dan tapped it. I think if I remember right, Johnny Elway, right? He used to tap before he let one rip in a seam or let one rip 50 yards down the field. If I remember right, he loved the tap. Look at
a lot of tap.
My Pop, look, when he saw it, boom, gave that tap, boom.
Yeah.
Let it
There's
fly.
tapping and then there's tapping.
And then I see Shedeur Sanders doing a little tap the other day. And Pop, good recommendation, by the way.
Oh, the Dow's phenomenal.
Good recommendation. And then I see Shedeur doing the old tap the other day at his pro day, and I see people, what is he doing? What's he doing? And then a safety in the league, Andre Cisco, who's now a Jet, used to be a Jaguar. He's over there putting on Twitter, oh, well, I'll be jumping that route. That's going to lead to a lot of picks. So, yeah, look, we're 2 weeks away. We're 15 days away, and it's full-blown lunacy what's going around on social media.
You think just a little crazy?
Yeah,
I mean, come on. Ease up on all this. Ease up. Well, Charlie Weis is going to take us through all the quarterbacks. I talked to Phil Simms today on the Believe in Giants podcast, Giant Insider. Jerry Foley's weighing in on that comment. Yeah.
Simms tapped.
He said it was like
it's a rhythm.
It was a rhythm thing. It was like a waggle in a golf shot. You're not tapping it when you're about to get sacked, but he said, I'd kind of get into that rhythm and, let her rip. Let her rip. So, what was on the menu tonight? What do you think? Manayella vodka.
It looks delicious, my friend.
I'm gonna
delicious.
show you how to make it. It is so easy to make.
Oh, that's easy. Even I don't know how to make that.
The reason why I made this was because it's one of Charlie Weis's favorite dishes.
There you go. You gotta go with the old coach's favorite.
Lindsay has been communicating with Coach. Coach likes to make sure that everything is all buttoned up.
Yeah.
All buttoned.
That's why he was such a successful coach, Bob.
4 Super Bowl rings as a coach.
Not bad. Coached a pretty good quarterback named Tom Brady. I think he knows about quarterbacks. What do you think? I mean, I know he doesn't know as much as some Twitter GMs out there, but I think he's probably, I'm going to assume that he's not going to have a problem with the tap by Shedeur Sanders in his pro day.
Are you anxious to see what happens with the McAfee show being in Pittsburgh and Rodgers and all that other stuff?
Yeah, I am. Be interesting.
Be interesting.
Yeah. This whole thing's gonna be interesting, Bob. This whole, you're starting to read the tea leaves. I don't know how much is true or not, but a lot of people feel that the Giants at 3 are not going to go quarterback, not going to go, with Sanders, and they're going to go in another direction. Cleveland, a lot of people feel they're going to go with Travis Hunter. The Giants might go with Abdul Carter. But do we really know? We'll find out in a few weeks. That's all I can tell people. They want magic answers, Pop. Now. People want it now. I'm not in the draft. People ask on the Giant Insider podcast, and they tweet at me all the time. Biz. I'm not in the war room with Joe
I was
Shane
in the
and Brian
building
Dable.
yesterday.
Did you get in the war room? Did they tell you who they drafted?
No.
No?
I've never been in
Bob
the war room
Papa.
once.
You're Bob Papa. They didn't tell you. They didn't give you a hint.
No, I have not been in the Creston war room. Saw Dave's. He didn't like go, hey, we're taking so-and-so.
We're going Carter, Pop. Don't tell nobody. And don't tell that Bizignano. We're going Pop. We're going Abdul Carter. Okay? And hey, we're going to go Milroe, second round. Okay? Just to let you know. Okay, thanks, Coach.
Yeah, we'll see.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
I'm sorry. I can't provide the. I know a lot of people think they know out there. Joe Shane has not texted me saying, hey, Biz, we're going Bobo, number 3. And then we're going to do this, Bobo, number 2.
It'd be a problem if he did. It'd be a problem if he pulled a John Dorsey.
Yes.
Anyway, let's welcome in our guest for this week's edition of the ManjaCast. 4-time Super Bowl champion, Charlie Weis. Coach, welcome to the show.
Good evening, fellows. How we doing?
We're doing
Coach, you
well
look great, brother. You look
Yeah,
great, man. Holy shit.
Yeah.
What was your motive? Share with our audience, because this has been been 13 months, 14 months?
Actually started January 1st of 23.
All right, so it's been a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
So you've done it the right way. You didn't do anything stupid by injecting yourself with all kinds of things and going on these.
I did not take Ozempic, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, well, no, I'm saying you did it the right way. You changed habits, right?
Yeah, well, I do. I've been doing this intermittent fasting. That's what I've been doing. So I'm 8 hours on, 16 hours off every day. And then I started exercising. And at first, I ride a three-wheel bicycle because of my neuropathy in my feet. I can't ride a regular bike. I live in a nice community, nice roads, and it's guarded and not a lot of traffic going through. So I started maybe riding for 10 minutes. Now I go 10 miles, so I ride for over an hour every day, regardless of the weather. And I haven't cheated on intermittent fasting one time since I started on January 1st. And it works for me. It might not work for everyone, but it works for me. I've lost 150 pounds.
Jeez, that's awesome. Kudos. Kudos.
Yep.
So then, when I talked to you, I asked you, like, hey, what's your go-to Italian dish? You said, well, I love chicken parm. I said I made that when Michael K was on. So option number 2 was penne alla vodka. So I'm gonna teach our audience how to make it. But I know you had a little tonight. Okay.
No, actually, I don't eat dinner.
No dinner.
I do not eat dinner. But my wife had penne alla vodka. Okay. And so therefore I know exactly what the go-to meals are. We were at one of our local places called Franco's, and she had some of her cab, just like you, and little bruschetta and little wedge salad, but she exchanges the blue cheese crumbles for mozzarella, and which is a nice little wrinkle, and she had penne alla vodka, and she said to me, besides saying to say hello, she said she's expecting some food coming our way, courtesy of Bob Papa. So you have to figure that out.
How to ship it?
How to
start a business here. Let's get a look at that dish one more time, Lindsay. We want to see that penne alla vodka. Beautifully balanced. Got Got a nice glaze to it. Probably finished it with a little butter at the end to give it that little sheen. What's the name of the place again, Coach?
It's called Franco's. It's a place in Wellington, Florida, and it's one of our go-to places. We have a few go-to places. So, 2 local, and then we go to one place in West Palm a lot. But between going to Franco's or Calouse, which are 2 in Wellington, and then there's an old New York steakhouse in West Palm called the Okeechobee Steakhouse. That's another place that you go in there, like all New Yorkers on the wall. I mean, just pictures of all, Frank Sinatra and all these other places, all these people that came down to Palm Beach County, and that was the go-to place. So those are the 3 go-to places.
Now I know when you're on the Jersey Shore in the summer, when you make your trip, you and your wife or your wife, there's always a stop at La Mondine.
That's
and Shipwreck Grill.
Okay, so Shipwreck is Friday night, Memorial Day weekend. We fly in that morning. Shipwreck that night, table for 6, courtesy of Terry. So we'll be there, and then on Sunday night, we have to skip nights so that we get, on Sunday night we're at La Mondina, another table for 6 on Sunday night. So you nailed those 2, and then we'll.
Biz, you ever been? Go ahead.
No, never been to Shipwreck place.
We'll probably squeeze in, Rods and Waypoint, as our other 2 local establishments to go to. But Memorial Day weekend we're there, but we don't like to book every night because you have to wing it a little bit, And sometimes in New Jersey, Memorial Day, it totally depends on the weather, as you know. I mean, if the weather's nice, you want to be somewhere outside. If it's not, you don't.
Coach, you have a house up here in Jersey Shores?
No, I had a condo at Brielle Landing for a bunch of years, but we were never there. We'd use it like 10 days a year. So I told my wife when she's ready to go to Jersey for the whole summer, we'll get a place again. Like I don't want to go there for own a place there that we're never at. That's why we stay at the Breakers in Spring Lake, and it's a great place for us to stay. But once she's ready to go from like May till September, where we could bring whatever animal she wants to bring, and we go up there, then we'll come back and get a place up there.
I love it.
Coach,
you ready? You ready to get
Yeah.
into the quarterbacks? Because the coach doesn't want to see me cook.
Absolutely.
Coach, I got to ask you something, brother. As you know, this is the idiotic time of year, right? Well, it's all you read about is idiotic shit all over.
It drives me sick.
And it's got to drive a guy like you insane reading this crap, okay?
Yeah.
But, Coach, if you were at a pro day and you saw a quarterback tap before he throws the ball, would that bother you?
I'm actually at pro days. The most important thing to me was how he relates with his teammates. I could care less what he does the rest of the time.
Because I'm sure you know, Shedeur Sanders at his pro day tapped a few times. And we had people acting like what the hell he did, including some NFL players who jumped on Twitter, X, and said, oh, I would have jumped that route if he starts doing that in the NFL. How ridiculous is that? I think you had a quarterback by the name of Brady that used to tap at the time.
Well, here's the thing is I think that you have to know what you're looking for. Like these top quarterbacks all have to have the it factor or else you're not interested in them anyway. So let's just talk about the first 3 to start off with, because I'm a big Jaxson Dart fan. Okay. Let's talk about the first 3. We'll talk about Sanders and Ward and Dart. Now, all 3 of them have reputations for being great leaders. Okay, in their own organizations. The question is, which personality fits along with their physical traits to your organization? So Shedeur has a little bit of the primetime attitude, and there's nothing wrong with having, some cockiness about it, which is confidence/cockiness, but you have to make sure that your organization is ready to make that type of mentality the face of your program. Because if you're drafting a quarterback in the first round, you're hoping and you're counting on that eventually he's going to be the face of your program. Now, Bob and I worked together for years, and we know that first round quarterbacks are a 50-50 proposition. 50% of the time you're right, 50% of the time you're wrong. Okay, but at the end of the day, when you're picking a quarterback, tapping the ball just one minor element along with everything else that you're dealing with, because the two most important ingredients of a quarterback, one's physical, okay, that you could see physically, and one isn't. The physical attribute is accuracy. I don't care what your arm strength is. Are you accurate with where you're throwing the ball? Because what difference does it make? Your arm, they say your arm isn't strong enough and the ball's always on the money. They said Drew Brees' arm wasn't strong enough. They said Tommy Brady couldn't throw the ball deep. Because when he first came in the league, when we were first playing him, we were dinking and dunking a lot. I mean, those two guys are two of the greatest quarterbacks ever, and both had reputations of having a weakness that you can't overcome. So that is the physical element. But I think even more important than the physical element is, do they have the it factor? Do they have that when you talk to them? Those type of quarterbacks, there's something special about them. When you talk to them, you can feel it. I don't know how to define it, but when you see it, when you're around it, you know it.
Coach, let me ask you this. You know Brian Dable.
I do.
Do you feel Shedeur Sanders fits what he's looking for?
Well, Brian is a bit of a free spirit himself, as you know.
Yes.
I mean, he's a
little bit of a rebel. He's a little bit of a rebel attitude.
That's right. He's a bit of a free spirit, and he has a very good reputation of being to adjust with players' personalities. So, do I think that Shedeur and Brian could peacefully coexist? Yes, I do. I think they could peacefully coexist. Okay, I have no idea what the Giants are going to do. No idea. But I'm going to be very surprised if they take a quarterback at the top of the draft. I'm going to be very surprised. Because I think that if they wouldn't have gone and signed 2 veteran free agents in the last month, I might say that there's more desperation than there is. But there's still people that are available. I still don't know if that would have been the right word. But with what they have done, I mean, I think that they're in a situation where they got to get the best player they possibly can. And when you're drafting up high, if you don't get the best player you possibly can, I mean, then you're kind of missing a beat.
Coach, when you talk about arm strength too, I mean, the physique, the technique, the throwing motion of Tom Brady was drastically different between 2001 and 2014. I mean, you're also allowed to work on your craft. He became an even better thrower.
Yeah,
from a technique standpoint.
Right. And
so as long as the guy's arm is not viewed as subpar, but if it's viewed as NFL good enough, well, he's a rookie. You're hoping that this player will improve on every level, mentally and physically, right?
What's even more important than the arm, Bob, is your feet, your lower body. How calm are their lower bodies? I mean, when you watch Tommy, he'd stand in that pocket and his feet would be standing still. Okay, which is exactly what you're looking for. How many times have you seen quarterbacks that have happy feet? That always are jumpy. They're always jumpy. Now, whether they're jumpy because they see the rush. I mean, you don't know what the reason is, but the really good quarterbacks stand very calm in the pocket. Stand very calm.
Coach, talk about Jaxson Dart. My latest mock, all that fun stuff. I am going to the Saints at 9.
Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Do you? I know you love him. Obviously, you coach your son coached him and all that. You have a connection with him. You watched every one of his snaps. Am I crazy saying he's going to go that high, Coach?
It's funny. I read a thing today from some NFL guy who does quarterback schools, and he's a Cleveland guy, and he was hammering Dart. And I'm saying to myself, who the hell decided that your opinion even matters? Who even cares what you think? Really, who cares? I mean, what do you know about the guy? I mean, really, what do you know? I mean, it really drives me sick, to tell you the truth. Now, in both Cam Ward's and Shedeur Sanders' defense, I do not know them personally. So I can't speak the same about those guys that I could speak about Dart. But I've watched Dart over the last 3 years, since when he transferred from USC to Ole Miss. My kid was there as the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, and Lane's there, who's a brilliant offensive mind. And all I've watched him do is get better and better and better and better on and off the field. Do you want to know the first question the kid asked me? The first summer he's there, I'm visiting my kid, and Lane is kind enough to allow me to sit in the meetings in the back. So I'm sitting in the back of the quarterback room, and I'm very proudly watching my son go through a lesson teaching the guys, and there's a Q&A, and they're all asking. At the end, after it was over, I didn't say a word. I just sit there and watch. And at the end, Dart asked if he could talk to me for a couple minutes. I said, sure. What can I do for you? And he said, his first question, Chris, what's the difference between a good quarterback and a great quarterback? Mm. And I said, well, Jaxson, let me tell you this. You got Charlie here. You got Lane here. Let me not talk about the coaching football. Let me just use Tommy Brady as an example. Now, there's a lot of people that have been affiliated with Tommy Brady that use Tommy Brady as an example. So let me just be first to mention that I'm not taking any credit for Tommy Brady. I'm just saying I was around him for the initial 5 years of his career. All right? But
the formative years.
But what I watched him do after he took over the team, after Drew got hurt, he was playing. He worked the entire organization. You'd walk in the locker room one day, he'd be talking to the receivers. The next day, he'd be talking to the linemen. The next day, he'd be talking to the running backs and tight ends. The next day, he'd be with the DBs. The next day, he would be with the linebackers. The next day, he'd be with the defensive linemen. The next day, he'd be with the specialist. And I watched him take over the team. He didn't just take over the offense. He took over the team. And what I've watched Jaxson do over the last 3 years is the exact same thing, just out on the college level instead of on the pro level. He just took over the team. And I said, I'm not betting against Ward or Sanders, not $1, but I'm all in on Jaxson Dart. I'm all in.
Yeah, and I mean, you've been telling me that for a while, and people that are watching this, they'll say, well, yeah, of course, his son is his OC. He's going to be pumping him up.
That's not the reason.
No, I know that.
I gain nothing, and my kid gains nothing. Okay, we gain. I'm just telling you from watching them play and watching him lead his team and watching how he's adored in the building and how the fans adore him and the people in the building adore him. I mean, you go through the lunch line, the cafeteria people adore him. I mean, there's very few people that fit that criteria. There's a lot of great players, but they're not liked and adored by everybody. But he is. I said to one of your local New York beat writers that was going to the combine, that was going to do an article on Jaxson Dart, I said, do me a favor. There's 11 Ole Miss guys going to the combine, Jaxson being one of them. Ask all 10 of them the same question. Okay, ask all 10 of them to describe Jaxson Dart. I go, you're going to get the same answer all 10 times. Now, most of those guys that were there were defensive players, or a lot of them were defensive players. So defensive players don't normally, have that much to say about the quarterback. But some of those big-time transfers that ended up coming from the portal into Ole Miss were recruited by the quarterback. They played defense, and the reason why they came was because of the quarterback. I mean, he's really something special.
Well, I mean, Coach, listen, I know where you're coming from because we've known each other forever. And I know that you're coming from a place of just being honest, because you can be bluntly honest with people. And I tell it all the time. You were all over Jaden Daniels.
Loved him.
Early in the year. You're like, he's the best quarterback in college football, and he's going to be an unbelievable pro. And the other guy that you said was Bo Nix. Just like you were all in on Baker Mayfield, he's proven you right despite some of the issues that he had to deal with along the way. Dak Prescott was someone that you were on early. So, I mean, people got to uncloud their mind and just listen to the words,
I think it's important, Bob. Every organization has an extensive staff, both of coaches and personnel people. Okay, they have an extensive staff. And when they do all this work, no two organizations see things exactly alike. I mean, they all see them differently. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there's people. I mean, there's still some organizations that say, we don't see Jaxson Dart in the first round. I'll be shocked if he doesn't go in the first round. Absolutely shocked if he's not picked. If he lasts to the 20s, if the Steelers or the Rams don't take him, I would fall over. But I don't think he's going to be around for either one of those teams. Not the 20s. I don't think so.
I'd be shocked because he feels like he would be a perfect McVay guy.
No doubt about it. And I think that with any quarterback, and my feelings on quarterbacks playing when they're rookies, Bob, I think any quarterback it's an invaluable experience for a quarterback to come in under a vet who knows how to do it the right way. I mean, you come in and you go in, if you went into the Rams with Stafford there, who's one of those guys who does everything the right way. I mean, Stafford doesn't have a lot of gas left in the tank, and you go in and watch and learn under him. I mean, with a brilliant offensive mind like McVay, I mean, it would be utopia. I just don't. Can you see him hanging around to 26?
Yeah,
probably not.
Coach, I got him going with Derek Carr and Kellen Moore in New Orleans.
I think it's another. If I'm Kellen Moore, I'm taking him because I'm saying, look, I'm paying Carr a lot of money. He's going to be our quarterback this year, but the writing is kind of on the wall that he's not the long-term answer in New Orleans. No. The division is not that tough. I mean, so one bright spot at the quarterback position could be the difference between winning the division and not winning the division. Look at the Commanders last year. Did you think that the Commanders were going to be a playoff caliber team?
No.
And you can talk about all the things that Dan Quinn did, and I love Dan Quinn. okay, and justifiably so. But they're in the playoffs because of Jaden Daniels.
Oh, absolutely.
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 And Denver's in contention because of Bo Nix.
Mm-hmm.
So, some of those other quarterbacks, I mean, Caleb Williams might turn out to be a star, especially now. You got Ben Johnson there and in there. It's a good fit. They went and got offensive linemen. He might thrive in the second year. Normally, you take a big jump from the first year to the second year. But, I mean, there's certain people that fit organizations. Like, I look at Jaxson. I'd love for him to go to Pittsburgh. Bob and I are both big Tomlin fans. And what is the missing ingredient in Pittsburgh?
Quarterback.
Ever since Roethlisberger left, that's been the missing ingredient. I mean, so hey, we all have heard the rumors that Aaron Rodgers might go there. Is Aaron Rodgers the long-term answer in Pittsburgh? We know the answer to that. To answer to that question, that's rhetorical. Even if he does go, it's a short-term deal. So I think going to a place like that. Now, there's other places where you go. I mean, you're going to have to play. When they bring you in, you're going to have to play. They're not bringing you in to sit you. They're bringing you in to play you.
Coach, another quarterback. So many different opinions on it now. He's actually invited to the first round. He's been linked to a few different teams, maybe Pittsburgh being one of them. That's Jalen Milroe out of Alabama. Have you seen much of him, and what do you think of him?
Well, Jalen Milroe went into the Senior Bowl and had a bad week. And
Bo Nix.
What I'm saying, he had every opportunity to do what Jaxson Dart has done. Jaxson Dart went into the Senior Bowl, and people, he's a day two guy, we'll see. And then all he did was he was the best player at the Senior Bowl. He's the best player at the Combine. He had a great pro day. And now people are looking to punch holes in him. I mean, so they're going to games that things didn't go well. For example, they played Florida. Okay, so he threw a couple late interceptions in the game. Everyone goes, all I got to do is go watch the Florida game and see how bad he played. Well, go watch the Florida game and watch the 8 drop balls that happened in that game. For some reason, those same people that are talking about his 2 interceptions at the end of the game, they fail to mention the 8 drop balls that happened during the game. They fail to mention that little tidbit. They fail to throw that in there because they didn't watch the game. What they do is they watch a couple of highlights of a couple of picks and say, "See, we can't take that guy."
Right, exactly.
You don't evaluate a quarterback off of highlights. You go and watch every play that they played. You go watch every play of every game, the good games and the bad games, because they all have them. They all have, most of those top ones have a lot more good ones than bad ones, but they all have them. So when you're getting ready for this draft, I mean, let's face it, it looks like Cam Ward. Now, Cam Ward had a hell of a year. He really did. And he's kind of done everything right. And going into the draft process, before everything got cranked up, everyone heard, well, is it going to be Dart or is it going to be, is it going to be Ward or is it going to be Sanders? Is it going to be Ward or is it going to be Sanders? Do you hear anyone saying that anymore?
No.
I think
because you got to follow, like you always told me, and I try to explain to the fans, just follow what happens in free agency because that's the forerunner to the draft. And clearly Tennessee pursued no veteran quarterbacks. They didn't make a play for anybody. They had the number 1 overall pick. At that point in time, you said they're locked in on a guy. And now we know which guy it is.
And I think that, I know Bergonzi, when I went to the Chiefs for the 1 year, Mike was a low-level guy. Now he's GM of the Titans. And I've spoken to him, and I think that if somebody were really willing to make him an offer he couldn't refuse, I think he'd do that. But I don't think that that's presented itself. I mean, and if it doesn't present itself, what do you do, Bob? You take the best guy, right?
Correct.
I mean, that's what that's what you do. You take the guy you need. Now, I mean, there's a couple of really interesting players that you mentioned before, like when you talked about Hunter and Carter. I mean, those two, depending on what you're looking for, they're both very interesting prospects. So, I mean, would you want either one of those on your team? Absolutely, absolutely. But in this league, if you don't have a quarterback, you can't win. That's the bottom line. You don't have a quarterback, you got no chance.
Coach, who else do you like that you're kind of on?
Well, let me go back to Milroe because I really didn't go back. I mean,
I'm sorry. Yeah, let's go back to Milroe.
He's a freak athlete to start off with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you watch Jaden when he runs. Well, Milroe's like that when he runs. Okay. The thing is, he's not as accurate as Jaden, when he's throwing. Okay, which is one of the reasons why he's not seen in the same regard. But you're going to look at Milroe and go back and watch the tape once again, and you're going to see a lot of really good games. But when you watch him play when he has a bad game, it's really bad. I mean, if you go watch the Oklahoma game, I mean, it was an awful game. It was, and those are all the naysayers, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
That's the game that they're all going to go point to. They're going to go look at a game like that and say, "Did you see him against Oklahoma? And Oklahoma's no good." You can hear it now. I think James Milroe will probably be taken in the second round, and somebody's going to be really happy grooming him to be their guy. Do I think he needs some grooming? Yes, I do. Do I think that he has a chance of being a frontline quarterback in the league? Yes, I do.
So he's got to go to the right team.
That's right.
He's got to go to a team like, let's say Pittsburgh signs Aaron Rodgers or whatever, who takes him and just teaches them and works with them, and he can observe and all those other things, and maybe not really see the field until some mop-up time in a game. Maybe you're winning big or you're getting blown out. You get him on the field a little bit. But he can't go to a team that might rush him.
I mean,
right?
You think of Tommy. Tommy, was our fourth string quarterback his rookie year. Fourth. We kept 4 quarterbacks on our roster because Bill and Scott Pioli were astute enough to realize that if they put him on the street, we probably weren't getting him on the practice squad. Somebody was probably going to take him. I mean, so we kept him. I mean, that year, I think he threw 3 passes in one game at the end of the year against Detroit. I completed 1 pass for like 6 yards. That was all his stats for the entire year. But we had Drew Bledsoe. Drew Bledsoe was one of those guys that's good to play behind. You watch how things are done. I mean, he was a good role model. And the next year, Drew gets hurt. Tommy goes in, and the rest is history. But like Bob, like you said, going somewhere and being groomed under a veteran quarterback is never a bad situation. Never a bad situation.
What do you think of the kid McCord? Or have you studied him much?
Yeah. I think he's a very interesting people are all over the place on this kid. I mean, they're all over the place. There's 2 players in particular that they're all over the place on. Him and a kid from Louisville are the 2 guys. The 2 guys that
Tyler Shough.
First round, second round, third round, fourth round, they got him in just about every round, And I think that these guys have made so many good plays, and on top of making so many good plays, they presented themselves very well in this offseason lead up to the draft. So there's a lot of guys that I think are very, very interesting prospects. I just don't think they're walking into the league with everyone saying they're a slam dunk sure bet.
Let me ask you this, because McCord won a national championship. He played to their style. Chip Kelly was the OC.
Howard won the national championship, Bob. McCord's from Syracuse.
Oh,
Will Howard won the national championship.
Will Howard. I want to ask about Will Howard too. But like McCord, when you take a look at his game, I mean, there's because he had the injury too. You got to figure that he's a guy that removed from that, you get him in a program, there could be a lot to like there.
Well, look, now we're talking about flavors of ice cream, Bob. That's what it's like now. Because why do you like one guy over another guy? What are the ingredients that you're looking for in your organization that make one guy better than another guy? And we can run down a half dozen different people. You mentioned Will Howard. Let's throw him into that same mix. I mean, when you start adding people into the mix right there, you're saying what separates them? Why do the Giants? You're a Giant guy. Why do the Giants want one guy over another guy?
Flavor ice cream.
And I'm sure that the Giants already know what their game plan is. Now, the game plan part of the game plan could always be trades, right, Bob? You could always,
it could always be a trade.
Or you could trade back. I mean, you could trade either way.
But if Travis Hunter and
Abdul Carter,
most people say that these guys could be like generational kind of crazy impact players. You can't trade out of that position, can you?
When I think of Abdul Carter, I think Abdul Carter is the best guy in the draft. That's who I think. I think now there's some injury questions, okay, but I think he's the best guy. But I look at the Giants and say, okay, they already have two rushers that they have two
Can
guys.
never have enough rushers, says
I understand that. I'm going to get to that here in a second. They already have two rushers, and I think that guy's the best guy in the draft. So let's hypothetically say that both of them are there when you're picking. Let's say quarterbacks go 1-2. I mean, I don't know if the need at DB and or wide receiver would trump the pass rusher. I don't know that. But I'll just remind you of one player that you and I know a little bit. There was this guy named Carl Banks. Remember him? Remember this Carl Banks guy? Now, when the Giants drafted Carl Banks, they didn't need Carl Banks, did they?
No. In fact, Phil Simms told that story on our Believe in Giants podcast. He was like, when we drafted Carl third overall, I'm thinking like, we're going to take a receiver. Like, why do we need another linebacker?
How'd that turn out?
Pretty good.
So the most interesting part of this draft for me, for the Giants, because I pull for the Giants. I mean, the most interesting part of this draft for me will be if they're sitting there and Hunter and Carter are both there, which one do they take? That would be interesting for me. Now, I have a feeling that only one of them will be there. I have a feeling. So then the question comes down, do they take a quarterback or do they take the other one? And I know what my gut tells me, but, I'm not here. I'm not the general manager. I'm not the head coach. And unlike all the sports writers in New York, okay, I have no idea what they're going to do. Absolutely none. Zero. I mean, they all seem to know what they're going to do. Inside sources say, well, you're in the damn building every day, okay, and you don't know. I mean, so how are they?
I'm not really in the building every day right now.
Well, but how are the inside sources
in the great state of Florida right now?
Know more than what you know.
What about the Louisville quarterback?
He's really one of those guys that's taken a meteoric rise. I mean, every time you talk about players, they talk about him almost right with Dart. There's a lot of people that keep on bringing him up. I think that he's helped himself. He was a good player, and then in this offseason, from the Senior Bowl right on through, he's really helped his stock.
Coach, I think Phil Simms is pretty hot in this guy. Nobody really has been talking about him. How about Dylan Gabriel from Oregon?
I like Dylan Gabriel, but he's so small. That is my concern.
But I think he measured in the measure, like when they measure him at the combine, I think he's actually taller than Tua.
Which is how tall?
Well, but what if you're Miami in the 5th or 6th round?
Oh,
why would you not take a guy that has the same skill set?
I think you jump all over him. I'm see when we're having this conversation, I'm talking about guys that I expect to go in day 2. Now, Dylan might go day 2. He might, but you're right. You're talking about fits. And I'm only answering Chris' question because that would be a concern of mine. Not because the kid can't play. The guy has been a phenomenal college quarterback. Phenomenal. Okay.
When you think about Miami, think about every, when Tua is healthy and all that other stuff and they're in rhythm, it's great. When Tua gets hurt, they seem to insert these quarterbacks that are 180 degrees opposite in skill set that he has. So why would you not go get Dylan Gabriel in the 4th round or 5th round and get him in your program so that, God forbid, if our guy goes down, we're not bringing in Mike White. We're not bringing in Chris Streveler. We're not bringing in name the guy that is not the profile.
I'm with you. I think that, here's the problem. You're making too much common sense. I mean,
now they got Zach Wilson.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but you're using a common sense approach, and that doesn't work this time of year, does it, Chris?
No, that's good.
Oh no.
Oh,
there's not much common sense out there, Coach. No way.
I don't. I talk to people in the league, but I never ask them, hey, what do you think about this guy? What do you think about that guy? I always tell them, like, if they ask me about a guy from Ole Miss, normally I'll say, hey, just call Lane. Because Lane will tell you. And the good thing about Lane is he'll tell you the bad along with the good. He's not a big BSer now. I mean, he'll tell you exactly how he perceives it. And so, obviously, my kid's there, and Joe Judge is there too, which is kind of phenomenal, by the way, Bob, because my kid absolutely loves Joe Judge, loves him, works with him every single day. He actually loves the guy, So
he loves Jaxson Dart too.
So he gets ridden out of Dodge, in New York, but he's down there, and I think he's found a nice little home for himself down there because I know Lane leans on Joe, and I know my kid leans on him too, and he loves the guy.
Yeah,
I don't think he was ready. I don't
think he was ready.
I think I don't think he was ready. I don't think he put a staff together that translated to the NFL, and I think my guess is when he gets an opportunity collegiately or whatever next, he's going to learn He'll learn because I love being around him. He was great to be around. So I'm glad your son feels the same way.
I was just down there this week. I was there.
Biz, you got another quarterback question?
Just one we haven't covered yet. Quinn Ewers.
From
Texas.
No, here's another guy that's almost underestimated. I mean, where did all the love go for him? Where did it go?
Out the window. Nobody even talks about him anymore.
All of a sudden, was he stink all of a sudden?
Well, you know what it is, Coach? He played through some fairly severe injuries, right? I mean, he had a bunch of severe injuries that he played through this past year. And like Sims had said, he goes, he didn't even look like the same player in uniform. And he fought through it. He battled through it. He goes, but go look at him the year before. when he was healthy.
He was
I mean,
awesome.
this is the guy that everybody was talking about could be a top pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you 100%. I'm saying I don't understand. I mean, if you told me, I mean, it was sort of like our Bo Nix conversation last year, Bob. I watched Bo Nix in college, and I said to you, how many times in the year I'd say, what am I missing here? I go, why is he
You
not?
loved Bo Nix.
I said, what am I
In your
missing?
opinion, he was the second best quarterback in the draft.
I said, why are they not talking about Bo Nix? I mean, what am I missing here? You know, and I mean, the guy threw over what was it, 44-4 touchdowns to interceptions in his last year. I don't care what offense you're playing in. I mean, I don't care what it is, 44-4.
That surpasses your 3-to-1 ratio.
That's 10-1. I mean,
Well past.
I think anyone, just so you know, Chris, I think any quarterback that throws a better ratio than 3-to-1 is great. So if you're 4-to-1, you're great, you know. And that was 10-1. So
Coach,
he needed to go to the right guy, and he did. He went with Sean.
yeah.
Great fit, perfect for him.
Coach, I was all over Bo Nix last year, and I got destroyed on X for it. And I had him, and I predicted he was going to go with Sean in Denver, and it's worked out over there. I got destroyed sticking up for that kid last year. He turned out to be pretty good. Like you said, when you look at his numbers at Oregon, and then people right away, like they're doing with Sanders' 73% completion rate this year. Oh, well, he was in this system. A lot of it was receiver bubble screens, this and that. Oh, a lot of short passes. Those numbers are skewed. Come on.
Well, you know. A couple questions. What do you know about Dart as a quarterback?
Me?
Yeah, what do you know? What is his touchdown to interception ratio? You don't know.
His touchdown to interception ratio? Hold on, wait a minute. Let me scratch my neck. 67%.
What quarterback led the country with the best yards per catch average?
Jaxson Dart.
Oh, good guess. Good guess.
He threw over 4,000 yards. He had a 67% completion rate.
Okay.
You think I don't know about Jaxson Dart?
Yeah, I want you to go back and check. You know,
all right, hold on.
Things, okay.
42-79, 29 touchdowns, 6 picks, 67 points.
Okay, so let's do the math. 6 goes into 29. How many times?
Let's see. Almost 5, 4 point whatever.
Just about 5-1. You know.
Yep.
Now that doesn't count his 500 yards rushing and the rushing touchdowns that he has too. We'll just throw those out, right? They're insignificant. We don't have to include those.
Well, listen, that was the big knock on Daniel. When they were always knocking Daniel Jones, they never took into account the 750 yards rushing and the 7 touchdown runs. They're like, oh, he only threw 15 touchdowns. Well, what about the 7 he ran for and the 700 yards?
Yeah, they just throw that stuff out. You know, hopefully he's got a do-over, and hopefully good things happen for him. Because I always, you know, there isn't anyone I root against, which is a good thing. You know, when you're actually coaching, you know, you're rooting for you, and you're rooting against them. Now, when you're not coaching, I just root for people. You know, that's all I do now. I just root.
Can I tell you a biz story, Coach?
Sure.
You know, Daniel Jones is hurt. The season's gone. Maybe Daniel Jones. No, I don't think he had been let go yet, but he was hurt and was a mess.
So it's this year.
Alabama's playing. Biz texts me, dude, I really like this Milroe guy. I'm like, he is not the answer next year, like as the replacement. And then Milroe throws 6 interceptions or whatever.
No, he just threw a couple bad ball plays. Don't exaggerate, Papa. It was a couple of bad ball plays. It was a couple of bad back, 9 fades, back shoulder, bad ball placements, and you text me right back. Look, that's not an NFL throw. That's not an NFL throw.
Yeah. And then he's texting me about Jameis. He goes, look out for Jameis next year. I'm like,
no, I said he intrigued me.
Machine. I was wrong.
Look, Papa, don't exaggerate to the coach. I said Winston intrigues me for the Giants next year. And then at the end of the year, I said, I just can't deal with the long jerseys. Can't deal with it. No, and Stefanski benched them there. I said, I can't deal with it.
You know what? He'll be great for the Giants' social media department. I hope he never sees the field this year.
He'll be great for me in the locker room. He'll be a great quote.
Hopefully, he never plays.
Well, the one thing I feel pretty strongly that somewhere along the line, the Giants will add a quarterback. I don't know where. Selfishly, what I would to both of you, I know this is not just a New York podcast, but selfishly, I would like for them to take, either Hunter or Carter with the first pick and then trade up into the first and go get Jaxson. I mean, because I'm rooting for whoever.
I'm there for that.
Huh?
Giants have had pretty good success with Ole Miss quarterbacks now.
So that's
Charlie Connerly and Eli.
That's what I'm rooting for. That I'm rooting for exactly what I said that to you. I don't know if they'd be willing to go up to what it would take to get up to go get them.
If they love them, you do it. If you really love them, and you can get one of these blue ribbon guys up top, and then still go get a guy that now does not have to play. He may play, but that you're not force feeding him. 3 weeks in.
He's going to be your answer for the next decade. That's what he's going to be. No, he's not going to be. It might not be your answer this year.
You wouldn't need him to be.
But he believes he could be. He believes he could play. But I mean, what quarterback thinks they're going to go in the league and says, "I can't play"? I mean, the next time you find one of those, let me know, because it'll be the first time. They all think they could play.
Hey, Bob, Coach, one organization who's been real quiet by design has been the New York Jets. Aaron Glenn wants lower, everything quiet, and he's getting it in Florham Park. I got to be honest with you, Coach. Justin Fields over there, 2-year deal. Would it shock anybody if your boy Dart wound up in a green uniform?
The Jet fans would, just like if you followed that 4 or 5 tweets that I was ahead of everyone else on Dart on every situation. If you go back the Monday before the Senior Bowl, I said, okay, now let me tell you what's going to happen this week.
I remember that tweet.
And then I went to the combine. I said, let me tell you what's going to happen this week.
Guaranteed first round. I remember your tweet.
And I said, I could wait till after. I said, no need. That was my response. Okay. So I think that when you're talking about a situation like this, if Jack, I know Aaron Glenn very well. Love the kid. I say kid. I mean, I know he's a man, but he's still a kid to me.
He was a kid when you knew him.
You're still just a DB.
You with him.
One of those guys that you're close with, even though you're coaching offense when he's playing defense. Just one of the ones you like being around. Just a champion. So I'm pulling for Aaron Glenn. Remember I said I pull for people? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not pulling for the Jets, but I'm pulling for Aaron Glenn. And he so much fits Aaron Glenn. Forget about the whole Jet mentality. He fits Aaron Glenn. So could I see him with the Jets? And if he went to the Jets, let's say he went at 7, the fans would be in an uproar. I can't believe we overdrafted. We took this kid with the 7th pick. We could have got him in the 2nd round. We missed this guy. We missed that guy. About 3 years from now, you won't hear a peep out of any of those people. They'll all be wearing Dart jerseys when they're going to the games.
All right, I have one follow-up question to this. It's more about life. Then I want to show our audience how to make the vodka, and then I want to just have some random Giant story stuff with Coach. But let me ask you this, because there are a lot of guys, whether it was Jumbo Elliott, Perry Williams, there was a whole bunch of guys that went from the championship Giants in the 90s, and they signed with the Jets. They got some nice contracts when the Giants weren't going to pay him and they were aging out. There was the Patriots staff, and then Parcells goes to the Jets, and Belichick's there. You're with the Jets. You're living down the Jersey Shore, commuting out to Hempstead. The stories are unbelievable.
88 miles one way, by the way.
Todd Haley tells an unbelievable story of sitting like on the BQE. He's driving. He's just sitting dead. So he looks over, and there's Charlie Weis in the car right next to him, sitting in the same traffic as you were doing your commute. Was it weird, though, wearing their colors?
No, it was not weird, because to me, it was just a job. See, I love when people sit there and say, "Oh, you love what you do." Well, who loves getting in the office at 5 o'clock in the morning and work until midnight every day? I mean,
You.
Yeah, well, no one loves doing that. You do it because that's what it takes to be good. That's what it takes. Work ethic is one of the things that is the difference between winners and losers. You have to have work ethic. I mean, but no matter where I went, I never really worried about the colors the team was wearing. I never really worried about the different fans and everything like that. I never worried about any of those things. All I worried about was playing my small part to help us win. That's all I cared about.
All right, so I know you're very handy around the grill. Do you still have the light beer at all with the diet that you're on?
Yeah, of course. But it's Mick Ultra. It's not Coors Light. It's Mick Ultra now.
Mick Ultra. He sends me pictures in his pool. He's got the Mick Ultra right there. It's the Weis estate. He's got the grill.
In Florida, everyone has an outside fridge too. You don't need a cooler. I mean, you have an outside. Yeah, but
but you don't really, other than grilling, you don't really cook much, do you?
No. My wife. Whenever we cook, it's her. She got inside. I have outside.
All right, so I'm going to just show you. Biz, do you make a vodka?
No, I don't make much, Pop.
You don't.
I just eat.
You just order.
I order. My wife makes
it. And
just stop with the buffalo chicken, will you? And I just eat it.
Cook. All right, so I showed you the vodka.
I'm the outdoor guy, Pop. I'm the Q guy too.
The outdoor guy. You're the king of your barbecue. You got a cigar. You got a scotch. Boom. There you go. You're like Ralph Cramden.
By the way, before you tell how to do this, Bob, okay, if you're at the Jersey Shore over Memorial Day weekend, I know
I'm going to do it for you.
You're a shipwreck guy. Okay, I'll be there Friday.
Yeah, but maybe Saturday I'll cook for you.
Oh, Saturday we're free. Saturday.
All right, so let Lindsay. This is Penny alla vodka is so easy to make, just like the cacio e pepe I made last week with Garofalo, or the chicken cutlets and the chicken parm and the piccata with Michael K. Look, it's really easy. Here we go. It's very simple. Lindsay's got.
All right, Biz, cook it on the whole tomatoes. We got a little tomato paste, Calabrian chili if you want to really kick it up a little bit, vodka, my Rumo pasta, some nice fresh basil, and some heavy whipping cream. Simple. Now, Biz, you're going to have to get your hands dirty a little bit. You get your tomatoes in here. And now get in there and break them up. Break them up nice. I like a few chunks of the tomato, but you want to really break this up so that you have a nice liquid to make that vodka sauce super creamy. We got the shallots. I added some crushed red pepper flakes. I'm going to add just a little bit of Calabrian chili. Get that in there.
Because it's so easy. You can do it.
Yeah.
Try cloves of garlic.
Even I could handle this one.
And I'm going to press them because I want this garlic to be almost emulsified. So you can use a couple of them here. But I'm going to get this in here like this. There's one.
I say like this a lot.
I'd say 2 or 3. These are small ones, so key is you don't want it to burn. So I've got the garlic in here. I'm going to just get this going around. And then one other thing you want to add at this point is you want to get like maybe 2 tablespoons of tomato paste in there. And this Cento squeezable is really good. So now you're going to just kind of work this around, and you can already start
I think, Coach, that's my
to
technique.
get the smell. After about a minute or two, now you're going to add your vodka. So I'm going to
electric
add
stove there, Pop?
1, 2,
Yeah.
maybe 3 ounces of the vodka in there. And now I want to cook this off. But what's going to happen is it's going to get infused into these shallots, the tomato paste. We're starting to get our color. And we're going to just let this cook until all the alcohol is burned off. And
just like this?
You know, you'll see it start to reduce. It'll start to bubble.
Like
and that
this.
means that alcohol is burned off, because you don't want a shot of
When I
vodka
say
with
nice,
your pasta.
nice,
You want vodka sauce.
Biswood.
All right, our vodka has been reduced. Now we're going to take those tomatoes that we squeezed up, our San Marzanos, and get this in there.
Nice.
Very important now, because we
Bet
haven't
you-
seasoned the tomato yet. We're going to hit it with some salt. Going to hit it with a little pepper.
No sugar?
And
No,
we're gonna
not
just
for
let
this.
this cook.
No sugar.
We're going to let this cook for about
Not sure.
5 to 10 minutes or so, and just get it so that it's up to a little bit of a boil, or simmer, as they say. What I like to do, Biz, is the next thing I like to do is I like to take some Pecorino Romano
So I put the cream
and
in.
just get some Pecorino Romano in here, just to add.
You put the heavy
my
cream
cream
in, and
factor.
then you just judge as you
Get
stir
it.
it. Okay. We have all kinds of issues there. No worries, Lindsay. We're good. Just keep going. People have to go to
Cream
sleep.
is what changed the colors.
Now it just brings a whole different flavor, but look how it's starting to thicken it.
Hey, mix
All
it
right,
you
Biz,
wanna
I
buy
brought the
the
pasta
pre-braised
now into my
stuff.
pan.
Put some more
I'm gonna
Romano
hit it
on
now
there.
with Reggiano. I'm going to get
Reggiano.
some good, fresh Reggiano on here. I'm going to cheese it up. I'm going to cheese
I don't
it
like
up
to
on the
use the
finish too.
pre-grated.
I brought some
You gotta
pasta
go
water
fresh.
with me and added some of that to our vodka sauce as well. And now, pretty much the
Pasta
magic
water is
begins.
amazing.
Just start tossing it.
I was going to do the whole toss thing like you see on the cooking shows, but I
Gorgeous
was going to
vodka
make a gigantic
sauce.
mess.
And there it is, the finished product.
Just enough there for you to dip your bread in.
Although the bread's horrible in Florida, but
Never have enough Reggiano.
I brought it down from Hoboken last week. I brought 3 rolls or frozen.
Fresh basil.
a little basil in there. Chin.
Voila. There's your Paniello vodka.
Very good there, Pop.
I say, Coach, would your wife eat it?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Especially if you had some good bread in there too.
I got some good bread. I brought some good bread back from Hoboken last week and put it in the freezer right away. Slice them up. I have some nice bruschetta. You take some ricotta. You put some seasoning in it, a little olive oil, a little mick. You whip it with a fork, and you make almost like a ricotta whip as a little appetizer. Perfect.
I'm glad to
so
see
that's
you.
easy.
I'm glad to see you still say ricotta.
Ricotta.
You know, I know you two guys are Florida guys now, but you know, you're not saying like ricotta or
Coach, where'd you grow up?
mozzarella or any of that
Where'd you grow
shit.
up?
Chris
Where'd
will
you grow
always
up?
be a New Yorker.
I mean, I'm
Where'd
in
you grow up,
Jersey,
Coach?
I'm in Jersey, and I'm like, yeah, can
I'm
I
a
get
Jersey guy too, but he's a New Yorker. You know.
can I get mozzarella? And they're like, what? Like, oh, I'm
This
sorry,
is Staten Island.
mozzarella.
It's mozzarella. It's ricotta.
Right,
That's how
right.
you say it.
That's the way you say it.
Coach is Italian, even though he's not Italian.
No, he's like
Grew up in an
Italian. Yeah.
Italian neighborhood.
Oh, he's Italian. Yeah,
Right.
I could. You might not have that vowel at the end of his name, but he's Italian.
Well,
He always had that wise ass. He always had that wise ass attitude.
Well, most of my friends' last names end with a vowel. Most of them.
Oh,
There you go.
Coach, I could tell. Believe me, right off the bat. You might not have a vowel at the end of your name, but you're right.
Hey, I went out for dinner tonight with Annunziata. You know,
There you go. Hey, Annunziata. Hey, what are we eating here? Hey.
Yeah, chin chin. Chin chin. Oh, how you doing?
Oh, hey.
All right, Coach. Just a couple.
Coach,
quick
where's that
things.
restaurant? Pop, 1 second. Where's that? Where you going at down
Well,
the shore?
I live in right by Wellington, Florida, which is
No, Pop. No, Coach. What's the restaurant at the shore? You said you go to that shipwreck.
Oh, yeah,
Shipwreck Grill.
See, that's Bob. Bob and his boy Timmy Shin hang out to Shipwreck all the time. But
So do you.
so I turned on to a couple places. Like La Mondine that he's mentioned, and that wasn't one of his go-to places. But now Bob has turned it. That's one of his go-to places when he goes there.
Terry Eberflus, who the head owns Shipwreck. You got to go, Biz. You're from Staten Island. Now you live way out in the sticks in Jersey, almost near Pennsylvania.
Well, what high school in Staten Island? Because my wife grew up a part of her life in Staten Island.
Tottenville.
She went to, let's see, I'd have to ask her the name of the school she went to.
Your wife lived on Staten Island?
Yeah.
Oh, she's from the Rock.
Remember seeing Richmond plumbing trucks?
Sure.
That was her stepfather's company.
Get it. Richmond Plumber was her step. Wow, what a small world.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, do you know where she lived on Staten Island, Coach? Do you remember?
Well, no, but I do remember when we were together, her mom was living on Clove Road. I do remember Clove Road, but
okay.
They lived up, the golf course that's up off of Clove Road.
Yes.
If you go up Clove Road and hang a right and go up the hill, that golf course that's over there.
Yeah, it's up by Wagner College, up in Emerson Hill up there. Yeah.
Not
Grimesville, yeah.
Yeah, further away from Wagner College, but that side of the street where Wagner College is, yeah.
Oh, okay. Boy,
so like we should have brought Teddy Atlas on for this segment. Staten Island. All right, so Coach Weis, you've been generous with your time, but I just want you to share some stories with our audience. Take us, because I mentioned at the start, you're a 4-time Super Bowl champ. Everyone knows you're the OC for the Patriots in the 3 and the 5 years, and Brady in the early years, but also a young coach with the Giants. Mm-hmm. Tell Biz and tell everybody, how did you even get on the Giants staff? And then that room that you had in your first job as a position coach was pretty amazing.
Well, when I was at South Carolina, Al Groh was on the staff at South Carolina. So when Joe Morrison died, ex-Giant, by the way, Joe Morrison, number 40. But when he died, Al Groh got hired on the defensive, even though he had been the offensive coordinator at South Carolina, he got hired as the linebacker coach on the defensive staff. And he was sitting there talking with Tim Rooney one day, and Tim Rooney was complaining that he couldn't find good film evaluators, some young guys that were grinders. So Al said, well, there's a guy down in South Carolina that would be perfect for that. So Tim Rooney gave me a call, and we talked. He said, would you be interested in doing this? And I said, sure. He goes, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you a box of tapes. And these are all guys that have been in the league 1 or 2 years. And I'd like for you to watch all those tapes. I'm going to give you the names of the guys that I want you to look at, and I want you to grade all these guys. I said, okay. So I get a box of tapes, and about 5 days later, he gets the box of tapes back. And he calls me. He says, well, the tapes came back to me. I said, yeah, I know. He goes, why? I said, well, because I finished. He goes, what do you mean you finished? He goes, I just got them to you. I said, yep, they're all done. So he went and read all my evaluations, and he loved the evaluations. So I took a job up in New Jersey at a high school, Franklin High School in Somerset, New Jersey. And what Tim had me do is that whole summer, when I moved back up to New Jersey, I went in the pro personnel department and worked on evaluating, tapes of young players in the league. So obviously during that time frame, that was 1989. During that time frame, I get to, I met, Parcells and everyone else, and now we go through the year. The year's over. I coach the high school team. I'm back down in South Carolina. You get a phone call from Parcells. Now I thought it was one of my friends busting my chops, because the secretary goes, "Yeah, Bill Parcells is on the phone." I said, "Yeah, right. Yeah, sure. Yeah, he's on the phone." But he had that distinctive voice, as you know, and he asked me if I wanted to interview. So I flew up and interviewed. Didn't tell anyone because no one would believe me anyway. I came back and I was one. I think he interviewed about 15 guys. But if you remember when Lamar Leachman left to go to Detroit, Romeo moved up to the defensive line coach. Sweatman moved from the assistant special teams coach, to being the special teams coach. So they wanted to hire, an assistant special teams coach / defensive quality control. So I interviewed, and about, several weeks later, he gave me a call and said, "Well, you ready?" He goes, "When can you be here?" It was like on a Sunday. And I said, "Well, give me tomorrow to pack up my stuff. I'll be there Tuesday." And I was there Tuesday, and that's it.
Wow. And how about that room? When you became the running backs coach, because you're mentioned 4-time Super Bowl champion.
Well, let's start with the room the first year. The first year I used to sit in with Grow. So it was just Lawrence Taylor, Carl Banks, Johnny Cooks, Gary Reasons, Pepper Johnson, Steve Diassi, all those scrubs. And then, and then the next year when Parcells left and Hanley took over, I moved over as the running back coach. So, that was a really motley crew. I had OJ, Hampton, Tillman, and Meggett as the halfbacks, and Mo Carthan and Jared Bunch as the fullback. So I really had another motley crew. My first 2 years in the league, I had nothing but bums that was coaching.
Yeah, I see that.
Tell me about though. So here you are, this young coach, and you got Otis Anderson in there, who was the offensive rookie of the year. He was a great player. People don't realize.
Oh, he was great with St. Louis.
How good he was with the Cardinals. The guy was unbelievable. Then he gets traded to the Giants in '86. He's in dry dock because they got Joe Morris. And he's just then Joe gets hurt. And suddenly Otis gets a chance to play. But they draft Hampton in the first round of '90. So Otis is what was it like being in that room?
Well, Otis probably helped me more than anyone. He wanted to be the guy, but he knew that Rodney had to be the guy. But he also knew that in the classroom, some of the younger guys really struggled. So what he would have me do is ask him the questions, even though he knew the answers, just so that those guys wouldn't feel dumb not being able to answer the question.
So it was a setup.
Yeah, it was
in a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way, right?
Yeah. It was definitely a setup. So I would use him as my teaching tool, even though him and Mo Carthon knew everything. I would ask questions to them so that the younger guys would not feel embarrassed by not knowing the answer.
Coach, about you go to '89, Belichick. What was your first impressions of him?
Well, see, I always got along well with Belichick. I did. I always got along well with him. So it was a lot worse when I worked for him later on. When now, you were friendly. You used to go to the beach and stuff together. Now all of a sudden he's your boss. So it's totally different when you're working with somebody than when you're working for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
He actually is a pretty funny person, and most people would be shocked to know that. Witty, sarcastic. He's actually
I tell Biz that all the time.
Banks told me that too.
Him and he trusts you. There's a whole other side to that man that most people never see.
Yeah, and they won't.
Although he let it out on TV this year.
Yeah,
a little good.
Yeah,
let's a little bit. Hey,
Coach,
go ahead, Biz.
Coach, were you surprised about this whole North Carolina thing with Belichick?
I really have no comment on it. Here's my angle. if at the end of the day, Steve Belichick is the head coach of North Carolina, I understand it completely. And that might be the way he's going. I mean, when I was at Notre Dame, my kid was a young guy, and I got lambasted for my kid being on the sideline and giving him duties.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how's he looking now? He's one of the best offensive coordinators in college football.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why he was groomed the right way. I mean, if Steven ends up being the head coach at North Carolina, I'd say that was a brilliant move by Belichick. Brilliant.
And we're all dads, and you're going to do what you
So, I
can.
mean, the story, I think we don't know how that's going to play out. But because of that element, thinking in it from my perspective as being a dad of a coach, from my perspective, it might end up being an absolutely brilliant.
Just quickly, I got 2 more questions. Give our audience a little bit of a background of the Dable Josh McDaniel kind of rise, because it's a little inverted. Than most people don't know how it all started.
There's a lot of guys. I could throw a lot of other names into this mix, but because
Please do. It's a podcast.
That's the 2 you asked about. Let's go there. Dable was a defensive quality control guy. Okay, Josh, I don't even know what Josh was, to be honest with you. They were just kind of in the building. So when I was given these guys, at different, in different capacities. Josh was going to sit in with me and learn how to coach the quarterbacks, even though, he had played quarterback, learn how to coach the quarterbacks and grow from the ground. Nick Caserio was in this same group, by the way. Matt Patricia was in this same group, by the way. Okay. Dable, who was working on defense, flipped over to offense, and he got involved. And when we first started having him, he went to work with wide receivers. Now, he would have the office right next to mine. So really, when we first started, to be a lot of times where the receivers and quarterbacks would meet together, so that we made sure that they were always getting the right thing. But the one thing Bill was really good at, and I had no problem with this, is grooming your young guys to replace you. Okay, grooming your young guys. Not that you want to lose your job, but being strong enough in your own self that you are willing to go the extra mile to groom those guys to get them ready to go. So we groomed Ryan at wide receivers and groomed Josh at with the quarterbacks. At first, we groomed Patricia as an offensive line coach, helping over there with Dante. Then he ended up going to the other side of the ball. You ended up going over to the bad guys, going over there on defense. Okay, but Caserio started off helping on offense and ended up upstairs with Pioli, working in personnel. And there they are, all over the place.
All right, so my last question, I don't know, Biz, if you got a follow-up to this, but obviously you went to Notre Dame, you had success there, and success wherever you've been. But there's that iconic picture, I think it was here in Jacksonville, when you guys beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl. The picture of you, Bill, and Romeo, who we knew was going to become the head coach of the Browns. Everybody knew you were going to Notre Dame. I think it had been announced. And when you think about Belichick and how he's perceived, I don't think there's ever been a purer picture of respect and love and fellowship and respect. And am I reading too much into that? But
I have a picture still in my office. I don't, I see it every day because it was like one of those moments where even though we spoke, nothing really had to be said. It was like, okay, this is it. This is the end of an era of us being together. Now, I've seen reenactments of that, like with him with Josh and Matt Patricia. I've seen that, but that moment right there is the one of pure joy, but also camaraderie and respect. I think that those words go hand in hand with that.
How about Lindsay getting this picture up that
Yeah,
fast?
I was just gonna say, Pop. How about Lindsay whipping it up quick?
I did not tell Lindsay
This was not
I was
planned.
going to ask this question, but
Freaking
because I
Lindsay,
think
man.
about it, because it goes all the way back to 1989. It goes back to then. It goes to the Patriots. It goes to the Jets, and then back to New England. Like this journey that the three. He looked in that picture. You see Rack. He's kind of breaking up. You have that smile on, and Belichick looked genuinely happy.
Yeah, he looked really
yet
happy.
sad, but understanding that, man, the band is finally broken up. But what a concert we put on, to use his Bon Jovi terms.
And that's basically what the feeling was too. That what you said strongly coincided was what we didn't say too much. We said what we had to say, but that was it was I had a very similar experience later that evening, about 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting there having maybe my second adult beverage,
Yeah, sure.
Tommy says to me, he goes, "Well, what am I going to do now?" I said, "You don't need me anymore, big boy. Okay, you don't need me anymore. You've outgrown me. You're on your own now." I mean, there's certain things
You let him go.
That's right. Certain things are just those rare moments. Like my first year in the league, I'll wrap with this one. We win the Super Bowl. Let's face it, I'm the lowest of low, but I'm still on a staff that wins a Super Bowl.
You're in the team picture. I
So,
walk in the building.
I
Whenever I
am.
walk in the building,
Get a ring.
picture is there in the meeting room.
I
Where
am.
they have all the championship teams going back to the 20s, the 8 championships, and you're in that team photo.
So it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and once again, I might have been on my second adult beverage. And Parcells has this private party with maybe like 75 people in there. After the regular, so we're in there, and I walk up to him.
Before you tell the story, let me just explain the biz. That's during the Gulf War.
Mm-hmm.
So the Mara family, because of the Gulf War, these big parties they didn't have one. The party was in the hotel lobby in Tampa, because they weren't going to blow it out, because we had just gotten into this Gulf War. So everything was contained within the hotel. Right. So it was like the Mara family hanging out at the hotel bar. I was fortunate enough to have my parents come down for the game. They were there, and then there was in the hotel, right, Coach? It wasn't like it is now. It was organic.
Like even his party, it wasn't like there were bands and everything playing. This was like a gathering for like
a Jersey party in someone's backyard.
With plenty of food and beverage and stuff like that. So it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I walk over to Parcells, and I slap him on the back, and he looks at me, and I said, "I thought you said this was tough." And it was the only time you could get away with saying something, doing something like that. Well, that was it. I took my one shot. And he just looked at me and he just started cracking up. I thought you said this was tough.
Probably the only time you could say something like that, right?
It was pretty
good. Charlie,
Coach, this is great, man.
I can't thank you enough, because I thought we'd have you on for about 45 minutes, and now here we are, an hour and 30 minutes in. But the stories are amazing. But more importantly, the friendship. Because, look, I was young. I started with the Giants in '88. Coach came in '89. We've shared mutual friends and experiences. We worked together at Sirius for a long time. I remember I only did a couple of them, filling in for Tom Hammond. But I did the Notre Dame Georgia Tech opener, and I think it was 2008. Coach couldn't have treated me better. Could not have treated. I'm there. I'm filling in for Tom Hammond. I'm working with Pat Hayden. Alex Flanagan was the new side. Coach could not have been nicer. Because he was known as a hard ass.
Bob, everyone thinks I'm an a-hole. They didn't realize what you're really like. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but you got the thing. Just like everyone thinks Belichick's an asshole, but I've told this story a million times. In 2011, during the lockout, when the Giants held their 25th anniversary for the Super Bowl 21 team, at the charity golf event, they couldn't have any current players, so they had all the '86 team back. And Belichick came. We needed to interview him for Giants Chronicles. We were told, okay, you have an hour with Bill. Bill sat down. At 2 hours, we had to say, hey, Coach, I thought you had to go. Because he couldn't have been more generous and giving. Because as long as you don't ask him about his current team, he'll talk forever. But you opened up the door for me, and then working together at Sirius and all the stuff. I mean, I can't thank you enough because you've made me better at what I do. I constantly recite touchdown to interception ratios when I look at quarterback numbers. I'm like, all right,
listen, you say it all the time.
2.5, you could win. You might not get a Lombardi trophy, or you might not go. But if you're 3-1 or better, we got a chance to do big things.
That's
2.5, 2-1, 2.5 to 1, we can make something happen.
Pop, when we lost you for a few minutes, I don't know if you heard us, but Coach started hitting me with the dart. Hey, Chris, he goes, so what's 29-6 interception ratio?
Oh, you didn't lose me. You didn't lose me.
Oh, we lost
your
video.
Clean something up. No, I asked Lindsay to.
And he goes, that's like almost 5-1, right? He was hitting me with the Jaxson dart. 4-1, 5-1 ratio.
Oh, I heard it.
Well, okay, you heard it. We lost your video anyway.
Let's chin. Let's get this man to sleep. He's got to go biking for 10 miles tomorrow. Coach,
thank you very much, brother.
All right. Well, just so you know, Chris, that guy that you're working with right there is one of my favorite, not one of my favorite people of all time.
I'm gonna tell you something, Coach. He's taking me under his wing, and I love the guy, man. And can I say something? One second, Pop. Can I say something to you, Coach?
God,
I know you're
something.
I know you're not an a-hole because I was smoking one night. Me and Carl Banks were in his cigar lounge, and we were smoking one night. Me and Carl were drinking, having a few, and I started going over all the coaches. Hey, how was this guy, Carl? How was this guy? And when you came up, it was nothing but thumbs up from 58.
So I guess he said Chuck. You called him Chuck.
Yeah.
He's the only person in the world. Hey, Chucky. He
was like, I'm going over Belichick, and I'm going over Romeo, and then, hey, how about Charlie Weis? Oh, Chuck was good people. He goes, Chris, I never forget what Banks told me that night. He goes, Chris, there's one side that people show the media, and then there's the other side that's their real self.
That's true. That's true, though, too.
So, Biz, even though you're from Staten Island, now you live in Jersey, sort of, really Pennsylvania, but way out there.
You don't mind, do you? I mean, Brooklyn, Staten Island,
that's not really Jersey.
For 50 years.
But here's what we're gonna do.
Just because you don't know where Huntington County is, don't say it's not Jersey.
Well, Coach Weis makes his travel arrangements.
I'm gonna see him at Shipwreck. Good.
We're gonna go. We're gonna go. We don't need to. We can go to La Mondine, but we're going to go to Shipwreck.
Yeah.
You're going to drive down.
I was going to surprise him that night, but go ahead.
You're going to drive down from Pennsylvania, wherever you live out there.
And we're going to go. It's an hour away, Strunad. Don't start with like I live in another planet.
Yeah. And you're going to get a chance to break some bread with Coach Weis, and more importantly, his phenomenal wife, Maura.
And the thing is, and Papa's one of the few people who can call and get a table. Most people can't get a table, but Papa can get a table.
Well,
gotta like
shows
that.
like this, I keep giving Terry mentions. I'll send him a clip.
Make sure you
Don't
tag
worry.
him, Pop.
Hey, hold
I'll
it.
send
We
him.
got a
No,
lot of
tag
love
him.
in the show
I'm
tonight.
going to send Terry a clip of this. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
All right, Coach. Chin Chin. Biz,
Yep.
Chin Chin. We keep it
Gentlemen,
growing. Make sure
great.
you subscribe, like it, send comments. We're trying to build something here. Coach was our very first guest, but when we literally made this show up the day of the conference championship games to do live, which we're going to do once the regular games start. We're going to watch TV with the rest of you and talk about what we see. But, Coach, we appreciate your generosity with your time.
You got it.
Thank
All
you.
right. Take
Thank
care.
you.
All right.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Manja Cast.